Let's review our drainage library for our particular project. Under the Drainage pull-down menu, we can access Project, Drainage Library. And this is the drainage library that we're using for this particular project. And typically you'll have one drainage library and it would be usable by all projects in your particular region. Now here we have a rainfall tab, a land use tab, nodes, links or pipes, and spread section. So this is all the data that we store in our drainage library, and then each project points to this library and accesses pieces of that data. The rainfall tab is where we can save off or store off our various rainfall data for our particular region or state. For example, we're going to be using Zone 1. It happens to be an intensity equation. If I click the Modify icon on the right-hand side of my librarian list, it'll bring up that particular data source. It'll show me the equation selection that I'm using and all the various frequencies and values for my different variables. We also support a rainfall table, a unit hydrograph, and a cumulative hydrograph. The table, if you use the table option, you can import and populate the table through an ASCII file, Hydro35 or TP40. So click OK. We'll go to land use. We'll take a look at, in our case we were accessing private land use. You can double click on it and you can kind of review the data for that particular land use. Now here, for example, grass has a runoff coefficient of 0.5 and a symbology of land use area underbar grass. So therefore, when I create a drainage area and I want to calculate the composite C value for that particular area, Geopack can search in the design file or reference files for shapes and look for shapes that match that symbology, in this case grass, and assign a runoff coefficient based on my table here. So that's why I would have the land use set up in the library, and then I could just delineate my different land uses with shapes in my design file. If I take a look at nodes, for example, here's a 10-foot curb type A. Review that particular structure, and you can see that the item has an ID, a description. It's associated with a pay item, which means we're linking it to the Design and Computation Manager, and that would be for quantity calculations later on. A particular cell to be placed, accessing the cell library for our project, and then the type of node it is, a curb. It's available to be placed in an on-grade or sag situation, and then its length, opening length, the depression width, and depth. And again, these are for the hydraulic capacity calculations. We have other types of nodes in drainage: grates, curb and grate, slotted drains, junctions, manholes, outlet structures, bottom, other, and head wall. Take a look at a grate inlet, for example. Just modify that item, and you can see it's pretty much the same information at the top: the ID, a description, a link to a pay item, a cell, and then how it can be placed, whether it's an on-grade, grate inlet, or sag. This one can be used for both. And then the grate type. And then for sag conditions, we add in reduction factors or clogging factors. See, for junctions, take a look at a junction, like a manhole. And again, we don't have any hydraulic properties associated with manholes, so therefore we just need to know the ID, the cell to use, and so forth. Under links, that would give us a list of all the available pipes. And there's approximately 1,500 or so pipes automatically stored in this particular library. And we can for example, take a look at our circular concrete pipes. So you can change the shape and the material and review those types of pipes. But take a look at a 2-foot pipe and the properties associated with that. Again, very similar: an ID, a description, a pay item, again for calculating quantities later on, the roughness, thickness, and the rise for this particular type of pipe. And we also have trench details, so if we need to calculate trench volumes later, we can do that. And you can take a look at different types of shapes. For example, an ellipse. Highlight one of those, and you can see again the various dimension values in the table, a description, a pay item link if there is one, and trench details. So these are all, every pipe has this information stored with it. And finally, we have typical spread sections that may occur on a project, and we've added a couple in here for a roadway. You just look at the spread section dialog, and it shows us that, you know, for this particular 50-foot right of way, we've got a width of 25, 2% slope, and a pavement Manning's value of 0.015. And it just having a spread section in the drainage library may save us time when we're filling out dialogues for each of our nodes that we're going to use. So that's the drainage library. Again, this would be something that's accessible by everybody using drainage. It would be stored on a server probably, and everybody could access it for their individual projects. So let's go ahead and close the library, and next we will get into actually placing our drainage structures, computing our drainage areas, and so forth.